Before applying these conclusions in detail to the issue of abortion, and then measuring that application against Texas's criminal abortion laws to determine their constitutionality, the Supreme Court briefly considered Wade's arguments. Citing the well-known facts of fetal development, Wade first argued that the unborn are persons, quote, within the language and meaning of the 14th Amendment, end quote, which would make the unborn's right to life guaranteed by the amendment. However, the Supreme Court was not persuaded by this argument for three reasons. First, it observed that there had been no cases in which the unborn were considered persons within the meaning of the 14th Amendment. Second, it could only find support for the term person in the Constitution having a postnatal application. And third, it noted that in the 19th century, quote, prevailing legal abortion practices were far freer than they are today, end quote. All of this considered, the Supreme Court was not persuaded that the meaning of the word person in the 14th Amendment includes the unborn. Wade then argued that, the 14th Amendment aside, the state has a compelling interest in protecting the unborn since life begins at conception and remains present throughout pregnancy. In response to this argument, the Supreme Court refused to answer the question of when life begins, citing the absence of agreement in the fields of medicine, philosophy, and theology, and noting that the law has never recognized the unborn as persons in a complete sense. In considering the arguments from both sides, the Supreme Court ruled that, by adopting one view of life, Texas violated the pregnant mother's 14th Amendment privacy right to an abortion. However, the Supreme Court also acknowledged that protecting the health of the pregnant mother and protecting potential human life are important and legitimate state interests, with each becoming compelling at a particular point during a woman's pregnancy. Regarding the state's interest in protecting the health of the mother, the Supreme Court decided that the compelling point is around the end of the first trimester, citing how, until the end of the first trimester, mother fatality in abortion may be less than mother fatality in normal childbirth. After this compelling point, the state may regulate the qualifications and licensing of persons and facilities that provide abortion and the like. Regarding the state's interest in protecting potential life, the Supreme Court decided that the compelling point is at viability, or the capacity for the fetus to have meaningful life outside the mother's womb. From the point at which the fetus is viable, the state may prohibit abortion, except when it is necessary to protect the life or health of the mother. This leaves, of course, the period before the end of the first trimester. Regarding this period, the Supreme Court decided that the abortion decision is between the pregnant woman and her physician. Applying these standards to Article 1196 of Texas's Penal Code, which limited legal abortion only to those cases where it was necessary to save the life of the mother, the Supreme Court concluded that Article 1196 swept too broadly. It made no distinction between abortions performed early in pregnancy and those performed later, and provided only one legal justification for abortion. Therefore, the Supreme Court struck down Article 1196 of Texas's Penal Code as unconstitutional. By striking down Article 1196 of Texas's Penal Code, the Supreme Court felt it was unnecessary to consider Roe's argument that Article 1196 was unconstitutionally vague. But the Supreme Court did find it necessary to also strike down Articles 1191 through 1194 of Texas's Penal Code, noting that failure to do so would have left Texas's criminal abortion laws intact and prohibited all abortions no matter how urgent the medical need. The Supreme Court granted Roe declaratory relief, but not injunctive relief, believing that Texas's prosecutorial authorities would abide by its decision.